Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV, a program where we discuss politics, policy and governance. My name is Suleiman. Tonight, we look at the emerging issues around the presidential primaries of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. After months of back and forth, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has thrown its presidential ticket open. This means that the party has effectively ditched zoning, at least for the 2023 presidential elections. This decision was taken after the National Executive Committee of the party, which met late last night, reviewed and discussed the report of the 37-member zoning committee led by Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom. The zoning committee had submitted its reports since last month, but the party had been unable to take a decision on it due to anglings and wranglings by various interests and factions of the party. In fact, while throwing the NEC meeting open yesterday, the national chairman of the party, Dr. Iyochia Ayu, admitted that the party leadership has been under pressure ahead of the party primaries and the 2023 presidential election. Well, as you can imagine. But as the PDP formally jettisons zoning, at least for this election, the Ohaneze Ndibo worldwide, the foremost sociocultural and political organization in the Southeast, has threatened to boycott the 2023 elections if neither the ruling APC nor the opposition PDP produces a presidential candidate of Igbo extraction. The group criticized PDP's open contest decision, saying that it will mobilize Nigerians in the zone to use the option of sit-at-home order to boycott the elections next year. So tonight we ask, what does this open contest decision mean for the PDP? What does it mean for the clamor for a southern presidency after 8 years of Buhari? And last but not least, what does it mean for the political arithmetics of the 2023 elections? With me in the studio to discuss these issues are two party insiders. Colonel Bala Mande is currently the state chairman of the PDP in Zamfara State. He is a former Minister of Environment and former military administrator of Niger State. He is on the road and we're awaiting him. He will soon be in the studio here. But also with me is Lady Ejiro Umukoro, who is an author, a media executive, and currently the spokesperson of the Bukola Saraki Presidential Campaign Organization. You're most welcome, madam.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be right here for you. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing, well, emerging issues around the PDP's presidential primaries. And with me for now is Lady Ejiro Umukoro, who is presidential spokesperson, well, for a president, maybe if all permits. Yeah. And I know as you wish, you would transition from spokesperson for a presidential candidate to I want you to say it yourself, right?
No, let's not jump the gun.
That's all right. Okay. So your party, the PDP, in the last several months, you know, they've been having this tit for tat, you know, back and forth. We must have southern presidency. We must zone the presidency to the south. No, we cannot zone the presidency. You cannot zone what you don't have. You know, I'm quoting some of the comments made by important persons in your party. So how have you reached this final decision now, if it is the final decision?
You know, with what the National Executive Council came up with, you understand that this has taken a period of time. This wasn't a rushed conversation. It wasn't a rushed idea of saying, let's just do what we want. It's about consultation, it's about understanding the issues. And it took a 37-man committee, right, headed by its chairman, who sat over this discuss. Now, when you represent people, you have got to also listen to the people. These ideas did not come over based on somebody's ideas only, but there were consultations, there were conversations with those who they also represent. I mean, from whether they are statutory delegates or other forms of delegates from the ward level, and even those who they represent at the community level. All of these conversations were had. And then top hierarchy of persons who have been in the party in past high-level positions or even in current positions, all of these voices were all put together to say, you know what, can we filter and understand where is the direction really going? Not what we anticipate, not what we think, but what is the reality on ground? Because we're talking about a conversation of having power come 2023. That is a conversation across the aisle. How do we get power in 2023? And, you know, 16 years was the time period that PDP had it, and then the APC came. And where we are currently in Nigeria, the direction we are going, it is clear we can no longer go in that direction.
But some people would make the argument that even in 2019, you didn't have power. And there was some sense of zoning in 2019 that the presidential ticket had been zoned to northern Nigeria. So it was mostly northern candidates that even fielded themselves, you know, within the party. And then the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar emerged and he contested and lost against the APC's then candidate and also sitting President Muhammadu Buhari. So people would say, you know, some people have already had their chance, you know, that it's only the fair thing to do to now throw it open, you know, I mean, to now take it to the other side so that they too can have their own try. It doesn't matter whether you get the power or not. What matters is fairness within our party first.
It's an understandable conversation. Nobody is saying otherwise.
Okay.
But we are also focused on the fact that, look, where we are now, the dynamics at play requires a different type of strategy. And when you go to the streets, listen to the average Nigerian. What are they really asking for? They're looking for the sort of leadership that will take us away from where we are currently in Nigeria and address issues of cost of living, job creation, insecurity, healthcare for the average person, right? And the industrialization and innovation of the Nigerian environment. We have such tech spaces, we have businesses. All of these are the things people are asking, how can I make my daily bread? Now, in this conversation with the dynamics that are played from both sides of the aisle now, it is clear that if we're going to take power, you've got to look at your chest, as it were, and decide which is the best move for you. If the best move at this time, just like we reviewed the Nigerian Constitution, when we discovered that the Nigerian Constitution is a bitter cake or is no longer up to date with the modern times, and the world has evolved, evolution is happening, people's ideas are changing, there's more civic engagement, right? Even the voters' apathy we're talking about, if you notice, there's a slight shift. There's participation for the citizenry. Now, when you see that kind of dynamics playing out, you ask yourself, what should be the next move? And in this conversation right now, it's about, we've not been in power for a while. That is, the PDP has not been in power for a while. How can we get power? And they have played with all the indices they have, the data they have gathered, the wisdom from the various elders, the stakeholders that are involved, and sitting down and having this conversation, they knew, okay, don't worry about what happened in 2015. The conversation now is, the way it's going, we've got to change our permutations based on the realities on ground. So I think it's a good move in that aspect. For those who also clamor for that conversation, I think it's always best to understand that when you have power, you can decide. And let us also remember that it's not a case of, you know, denying anyone per se, but what will work for the party that will also be beneficial to you. That is really should be the conversation.
Interesting. But there are so many things that you've said that I would like to take you on, but maybe we just take a short break so that we can bring in the second guest who has just arrived. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the latest on PDP presidential race, namely that they have decided to throw the contest open, at least for this 2023 elections. And with me are two insiders. First, Colonel Bala Mande, who, as we introduced earlier, was a former Minister of Environment of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and former military administrator of Nasarawa State, but currently the state party chair in Zamfara State. And also with me is Madam Lady Ejiro Umokoro. So as I was saying, maybe I start with you again to give the Colonel 1 minute to settle down. So what guarantees can Nigerians expect that we have now seen the end of zoning debate within the party, within the PDP? Because 6 weeks ago, when the 37-man committee met, newspapers, journalists, they found that the committee decided that there should be no zoning, that there should be an open contest. But shortly after that, you still find, governors from southern Nigeria and various groups saying that no, there must be zoning and so on and so forth. So what is the guarantee that this is a final decision by the PDP on this matter going into the elections?
The NEC has already made a decision yesterday, and that's already now in the public domain. And once a decision is reached at that level of the National Executive Council, it's binding by law. And if you're a party member, it's expected that you would understand that this was not a singular decision. This was a collective decision by the party, and in the wisdom of all the elders and those involved, this is the direction to go. So if this is where the ship is sailing, it only behoves on everybody else to say, okay, we need to be on board here. And going forward, it's about getting power in 2023. And once that is the focus, it's pretty easy for everybody to now cue in and just run with it.
Thank you. So, Colonel, it's interesting to say that everybody gets on board, the ship as we move towards 2023. But some people are already worried that they're already being left behind on that very PDP ship. For example, some people look at the delegate electoral map and feel that without zoning, certain parts of the country would never make it to the presidency within the PDP.
I don't think that is the case.
Okay.
This is democracy. And PDP is the most democratic party in Nigeria.
Okay.
And if you look at our antecedents from 1998 until now, the party has been democratic. Yes, zoning was introduced as an issue for discussion and for decision because some segments may be felt they may not have the chance to take a shot at the villa if the contest is left open. There have been so many things that have been under discussion, like zoning, restructuring, and a number of them, but they didn't stand the test against democratic ethos. Yes, you see, in our party, people have started canvassing, for support, making declaration of their intention to take a shot at the power. And you remember we had some, we were a little bit unstable during the era of Uche and a lot of upheavals, and the NEC took a decision supported by working committee also that Uche Secondus and his team had to give way for an election in order to reposition the party. And the party has been well repositioned now, and the party men and women are you know.
But Colonel,
yeah.
there's this argument also that the same flank of the PDP that are saying no zoning are also the same flank that are saying, okay, consensus candidates.
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Okay, so how do we square consensus with open contest? Because it isn't open contest.
Consensus,
yes,
is an option where a party can bring up a candidate, and it's most healthy in a democratic dispensation.
Okay.
Yes, there is a provision for consensus. In short, it's the first step. Where consensus does not work, then we go for a contest.
Okay.
And in an open contest, you don't deny anybody, whether he is from the central or from the far east or from the far north, whatever. As long as he's a party man or woman, he has the right, as enshrined in the Constitution, to contest, to canvass for votes, or to vote for a person of his choice. So people have gone quite far.
Okay.
You know, they declared their intention. They have been going around the country. They have been meeting with leaders of the party at various levels and delegates. And suddenly, now, after they had done so much work, and the zoning issue has come up, too late. Nobody is saying zoning is not an option. Yes, it's a good option. But it is coming too late when imposition of any zoning now will do a lot of damage to the party and will affect the fortune, the electoral fortune of the party when the time comes very, very badly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But Lady Ejiro, if some people would say, okay, it's the same outcome that Colonel Monday is talking about now that will ensure if you now start talking about consensus as well. Because so many, for example, your principal, he was in Lagos 2 days ago and talking about giving Lagos a special status, you know, if they vote for him and so on. And the former Vice President, Aminu Tambuwal, all of these candidates, you know, Wike especially, he's gone around most states, many states in the country. If you now start talking about consensus, are you not going to have the same outcome as you have, or as the chairman describes in the case of zoning?
No, at the point where we are now, if you look at the permutations, every man is in the ring.
Okay.
And that's what Colonel Bala just mentioned right now, Amanda rather, just made clear right now. The opportunity is now open. The conversation started with, let us unite more. That is the idea behind consensus. Consensus is not imposition.
Okay.
Let us even make that clear. It's why the Nigerian Constitution and the electoral process even allows for concessioning. Okay. So that people can sit down, have a conversation. Okay, what's your idea? Why do you think so? What are the problems? What is the solution? Can we meet midway? Who has the expertise more? What skill sets do we need to get this job done? Now, this is the conversation of a concessioning. Now, when that doesn't happen, right, what it has actually achieved is this. It has helped people to come together at least first. You see, that unity is key.
Okay.
Now, when that doesn't happen, the next conversation will now be, okay, let's pay fair equity justice here. Allow everybody coming so that nobody feels that I have been denied, which is the case of we do not want imposition.
Which is what will happen if you are doing zoning.
Good. Okay. So throw it open. And when you throw it open, it allows people to come as it is. And that's why when my principal, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, had that conversation late in the day, as it were, even though people already knew he had already, you know, gotten the form and all of that, it's just today that he decided to define why he is running for the presidency. Like, why I am running for the president. And he broke everything down. Okay. And he tackled a lot of issues. This is a man who has shown that both from the private sector, experience in the business field, who understands how that sector thoroughly works in terms of managing people, in terms of expertise, in terms of human resources, in terms of opportunities in all of these spaces, in terms of understanding the value chain in how to run businesses on the one hand. Then on the other hand, he has worked in the public sector, both as a governor, 2 times. Do you understand me? So what did you draw that kind of experience, which is why the conversation about who is the person with the most skill sets, do you understand, and experience that can also unite people, because it's key. Is why I talked about the fact that the most important conversation is how do we get 2023? And if we're going to get it, the unifying factor as well as the expertise come to bear.
This brings me back to Mr. Chairman, sir. How do we get 2023? The electoral map is looking clearer and clearer by the day. It's a bit slow, but at least it's looking clearer. For example, you know that you're facing one of 26 opponents in the APC, you know, some of them vice presidents, some of them former governors, you know, and so on. So how do you think that this open contest would lead to the best candidate for the PDP?
Yeah, of course. You know, there is no part of the country you don't have good quality aspirants who can become candidates.
Okay.
So if you throw it open, it gives the opportunity for Nigerians to select the best, to stand for them, especially for us in the PDP. Okay. Yes, I have interacted with almost all the aspirants, you know, in the party, and not only me, because they have been going around the states, and so the delegates will be able to gauge from, you know, what comes out of there with statements they make. The delegates will be able to decide this is a better person to govern Nigeria. And that is when we shall converge now at a place to be chosen. All of us from all over the country would take one. But, you know, we give everybody a level playing field, and for the delegates to choose the best.
Okay, but it's interesting to hear about level playing field at one place, you know, where the election, maybe the convention, right? The national convention, for example. But politicians, you know, those of us in the news, we know that they worry a lot about where the convention is also going to take place, you know, whether it's in Abuja or in Lagos or in Kano or in Kaduna or in Jos, as in the case of 1998. You know, if you ask some people, they will tell you the reason why was the former Alex Ekweme, the former vice president, didn't emerge is because the consensus was later moved to Jos, you know, and those with long legs and so on could move it. So right now there is a dispute within the PDP about where the convention should actually hold. The Abuja is, people are talking about Abuja, but some people also want it in other locations, Port Harcourt, Lagos, and so on. What are the interests driving that? What does it matter where the National Convention holds?
No, I think you just consider a lot of factors, really. Remember, we're not the only party, and you have to also consider the space, availability of space. Those are the factors you also throw, even though there are other dynamics that might be playing behind the scenes. But I do know for sure that whatever the decision the party finally chooses, it will be a good one at the end of the day.
Interesting. So we'll see how this works out at respective states level, because in your state, Zamfara State, for example, sir, you notice that you had a PDP governor who moved to the APC and live in a vacuum in the PDP, you know. So in a way, it's like having your governorship stolen or taken away to another party. You know, it has happened in several PDP states as well. But within the same state or other states, you know, the zoning issue may have been decided at the federal level. It has not yet been decided at the state level. For many states, some people feel that, okay, our senatorial district, for example, have not had any shot at the governorship since 1999, or even since the beginning of time. And the only way we can get that is through zoning at the state level. So how does this work out at that state level?
Well, whatever arrangement, zoning or no zoning, we will try to take the best.
Okay.
The best. The one that is sellable, the one that can be voted for, the one that can be trusted. And that's what we will do.
So how does it work in your state now, particularly? Would there be micro-zoning at that level or no micro-zoning?
Well, we try to make some balancing, you know, where if a gubernatorial candidate comes from senatorial district A, then certainly his deputy will not come from the same senatorial district. It will go elsewhere. And when B takes deputy, and then for the speaker, it will go to C. And like that, we shall balance it. And I think most states, almost all states, that is what they do. They don't put two principal officers of government from the same senatorial district.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but Lady Ejiro, we come back again to the point you were making earlier about what the former Senate President Bukola Saraki said he would do for Nigeria. The issue has always been that we have an election, we have candidates, but Nigerians are asking, where are the agendas? What makes one candidate different from another candidate in either of the two major parties, or in even the alternative third parties for that matter? So what makes candidate A, you know, as the Colonel said earlier, different from candidate B, even within the PDP, let alone between PDP and APC or PRP and other parties? Where are the agendas? I'm asking this question on behalf of Nigerians.
Oh, and it's a powerful question. In fact, I've been saying that going forward, I think the media organization should do more about let's tackle the issues that each candidate is talking about. I can speak for my own principal, which is Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki. One thing I do know is this, and I will also put this out for any other criteria in case the citizens need to also engage and make a firm and balanced decision for themselves. You should consider factors like record of the person, the antecedents of that person, either at governorship level, at national level, at the legislature, at other levels of capacity where they are given responsibility to probably work on reconciliation, things like that, unify people, settle differences, you know, and all those kind of raucous issues. You also look at what kind of experience. We have seen situations where people have been in politics for 10 years, 20 years, but the substance of their experience is lacking. Then you look at the leadership quality of that person. Is that person approachable? Is that person who listens? Does the person also understand how to be a leader in the global international space where conversations are happening, they can also speak with confidence? You also look at the person, does he or she speak truth to power? Are they confident and ready to be courageous enough to make the tough decisions we are? Because 2023 is not going to be a walk in the park. Anybody coming to have that responsibility must have understand what it means to govern. And if you have experience as a governor for 8 years and you've governed well, you are able to address sectors in your state, for example, education, business, job creation, agriculture, reducing standard of living, addressing business areas from aviation, right, to how do you improve the lives of teachers to also do better to teach students. You look at all of this factor. Then you scale it up. In Nigeria here, part of the challenge we've had is the fact that we don't have a leadership that drives policies. And the jobs of policies is one, identify gaps.
And that's, thank you. Let me bring in the Colonel. And that's precisely the point. People are saying that, okay, in this 2023 election, we have to have a turning point, that we cannot continue to do things as usual. And that it's not just enough to say policy. I want to do this, I want to do that. We want also to hear some things about how you are going to do it. You know, some people will say we have been dazzled before in 2019 and in 2015, and here we are. So what are the agendas on offer, particularly with regards to how, in a way that will make Nigerians to think of the PDP as an alternative to the APC?
Thank you. This time around, we have quality aspirants. We have people who are committed to service, to serve this country, and they are willing. Like I said, we have been interacting with them, and we have been hearing what they want to do for this country, and what is their analysis of all the sectors that are variables to the development of this country. And it's fantastic. It is amazing. Their presentation is wonderful. You see, they are eggheads. And so you will hear from them or from the person. We have the responsibility to pick one person and take him forward, who will carry the flag of PDP, and we all be behind him. It is then that person will address the nation, and then you can ask him all relevant questions, and then Nigerians in general will understand who he is, and they have the
Do you have any one such person in mind yourself?
Yes.
Do you have any one person in mind? Because politics is about partisanship, and you're a politician. Do you have anyone in mind within the PDP?
I have listened to all of them.
Okay.
And I'm still listening.
Okay.
I have not finished. When I listen to all of them, when they all finish, then I will sit down.
Interesting. Well said, like a state party chairman. You are there for everybody. I like that. So, but okay, in your case, the one issue that people feel that the PDP has to address in this election, that, I don't know, we don't have any opinion poll, but Nigerians may be disenchanted with the APC, but that doesn't mean they are running to embrace the PDP. How are you looking to address that gap, that people may not necessarily be happy with the APC, but that doesn't mean they will just rush to embrace the PDP? You know, that the fact that I'm not happy with APC doesn't mean that I'm going to embrace. That's a serious issue for the PDP. How do you aim to deal with such issues?
I mean, PDP did have an outstanding years in governance when they were in power. Let's not even forget that. The dollar was not where it is today. The Naira exchange we're having, we're not here. The level of the banditry we see wasn't here. The secession we are talking about in the southeast was not as pronounced as it is today. The issue of terrorism in the northeast that we see today is no longer, that was not as it was at the time as
But some
compared
will say
to.
it actually started under the PDP, and all these issues started under
Imagine, just imagine if they had been allowed to do what they ought to have done, because they had the wherewithal. Remember, it was an emerging issue at the time, and they had the data. When you change government like that, a lot of things just go off. But imagine there had been continuity. We would not be where we are today, to a very large extent. Even Nigerians are beginning to understand that. So that is one yardstick. Then two, look at the quality of the persons coming out from the PDP. There are one or two outstanding ones. I mean, outstanding ones that you could think about.
Like,
Oh, I'm going to talk about Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, of course. Why am I keen on that? This was a man who was so visionary. 29 years ago, we did not know anything called ATM. It began when he was in the business sector. He introduced ATM to Nigeria 29 years ago. That's visionary. Another thing is this. In Nigeria here, there are certain voices that are not heard. I am a representative of that set of voices. Women.
okay.
He understands that when you give a woman with capacity, competence, the courage to stand and do something, they will also excel well.
So how has he demonstrated that?
What did he do? While he was governor, 2003, 2007, all the vice chairperson of the local government were women. In his own senatorial district, all the chairperson were women. That was intentional. That was deliberate. Long before we even talked about the gender equality bill. Long before we even talked about what the Federal High Court has just recently insisted that this current government must apply the 35 affirmative action.
Thank you. But that's interesting. You know, the Colonel. I'm just thinking, as she was speaking about the... No, we'll come back,
okay.
Certainly.
Yes.
You know, as she was speaking about the presidential election, I'm looking at the local elections, you know. All politics, they say, is local, cool? So the Zamfara state, you know, your state, presents an interesting mixed bag of politicking and politics this very season. You have... we have a situation just last week where you had the Senator Kabiru Morafa and others were saying that they were going to leave the APC and will come back to the PDP. But when they come to the PDP, they are coming to meet people inside the PDP, people who also have the same ambitions as they have in the APC now. How are you, as state party chairman, already thinking of trying to put out those fires that have yet been ignited fully?
Now, you see, PDP is an accommodating party.
Okay.
We can accommodate all. We are not self-centered. And of course, we started talking with them. They had a committee talking with us. I was one of the principal actors in that dialogue.
Interesting.
And of course, we reached an agreement, we and them, on power sharing agreement. Okay. We had reached that, we had signed it. But, you know, the politics is dynamics.
So are we expecting the movement from the APC to the PDP anytime soon? Or
no.
What's going to, okay.
No, because APC, after realizing that these two gentlemen, with the massive support that they have in the forest state, had already concluded and signed an agreement with PDP, and they went behind the scenes and started maneuvering until they, especially the former governor, was, how it happened, he now rescinded that
his commitment
to come into the PDP. And we are taking it lightly, we are forging ahead, and we are going into the contest with full confidence. We will contest all elections in the state, and we are confident that the result will be positive for us, because the APC government in the state has failed massively, woefully. It's a disappointment. And you can see so many villages have been ravaged, displaced, burnt. People had to run as refugees, even going across the neighboring country, Niger Republic. It is sad, and they are disenchanted. And even the APC members in Zamfara state will not vote for APC. They are disenchanted. But there is nothing they can do because government is so powerful, especially a government that does not respect rule of law.
Interesting. But I'll come back to this later, because for our viewers in particular, what's happening in Zamfara state might be a microcosm of what's happening across many other states in the region and in the country as a whole. So let's look at Kwara politics also locally. You know, in Nigeria, we expect that if someone is going for a president, he should have his own state, at least in the bag. It's not always happen that way. It doesn't always turn out that way, but the expectation is always there. Now, in the case of Dr. Bukola Saraki, Kwara State used to be, is presently with the APC. What's the hope? What's the plan? What's the preparations to bring it under the fold of the PDP in 2023? Because it's not only the presidency the PDP will need. You'll also need more senators and more governors and more members of the House of Representatives, right, than you currently have and then the APC now does. So how is that working out?
Oh, my principal, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has done quite a lot in that regard. And that's why the newest song in Kwara now is Otoya.
Okay.
So the dynamics have changed. Meaning that the people are saying, look, it's time you come back and be here and do what you have been doing before. Because this was a man who was in Kwara State when he took over the reins, as it were, in the leadership position as governor. By the time he left Kwara in a better state. He brought a new form of mechanization, large-scale farming.
But if he left Kwara in a better state,
he did.
He will still be in control of it.
And this is the conversation. It hasn't gone per se.
Okay.
The fact that you have a sitting one does not mean that, and remember, there were a lot of dynamics that played toward what happened in Kwara State.
Yes.
Kwara State was just not a normal case.
Okay.
There were external influences, as far as we all know the story, up to the level of the executive, the interferences here and there. All they wanted was just to hijack the process, which they did, by the way. But it did not mean that the people forgot who Dr. Saraki was when he was there. He still has his hold there. They respect him whenever he visits, the stakeholders there, the delegates there, the leaders there, in all spheres, they are all in full support as much as they can with regards to who he is, what he currently represents, and the fact that he has shown outstanding record. They never forget that. He gave them the Aviation College, the second in West Africa. He gave them the Kwara University, the first ever they had in that context. He gave them the Football Academy. They have not forgotten that. We have some stars that have emerged from there. He gave them women in positions in a very Islamic state. He gave women voices. They never forgotten about that. You see a situation where he understood that, look, if he can drive policies, while he was at the 8th Senate, remember that he was a team player and a unifier. And he understood why it is important to work as a collective. 331 bills, all of them reform bills. 21 of those were economic bills. And of that 21, we will see that many of the economic bills we have today that are implemented currently in this administration, for example, the KAMA, right? Company and Allied Matters Act. That's one of it. Even the PIB bill conversation started from that space. Do you get what I mean? And there are other bills, the gender reform bills, the protection of our young students in universities from abusive lecturers. These were started by the 8th Senate, led by Dr. Bukola Saraki. So you see a man who understands the fact that he spoke truth to power. He questioned the subsidy scam. No, you cannot keep doing this. It doesn't look realistic. Does it mean there will be no subsidy? Maybe not at this level. Maybe there are better ways. What about power generation? They even gave suggestions regarding that. And this is what he's also driving on. He's been part of that conversation. Even in Tucano we have currently today, it was a conversation he had with the legislature in the US to say, look, we will do and work with what directive we need to make this happen.
Thank you. We're certainly looking forward to having an opportunity to interview Dr. One-on-one on these issues, because Nigerians would love to know, and we're sure he too would love to speak to Nigerians on this. But maybe we go back again to Zamfara State a little, Colonel. If you look at the state now, most of the big wig politicians, at least the former governors of the state, Governor Ahmed Yarima, Governor Yari, and so they're all still within the APC. And they're now ranged against the party, the People's Democratic Party, in a state where the PDP has not always been strong, because from 1999 to date, it had always been MPP, and so on and so forth. So how is the PDP really thinking, or walking to wrestle power from the APC or from the legacy parties of the past in that state?
You see, Ahmed Sani Yarima, Abdul Aziz Yari, Mahmoud Aliyu Shinkafi,
Yes.
Kabiru Marafa, and all host of others. They were in APC, yet PDP formed the government.
Okay.
So the situation is dynamic. The people that vote, they say, look, we are tired. And the people that were being used to rig, they are saying, we are tired. We will not rig for anyone. We did rig and we are in a mess. We are not going to rig for anyone again. You understand? The people that rig, they're not going to rig again. So you are going to see a new approach, a paradigm shift of politicking and election in Zamfara State. People will be surprised because people have been so pauperized. Those that vote, they are so pauperized. Our people are farmers and petty traders and animal rearing. Now nobody has one cow because the bandits will come to your farm and take the cows. They will come to your houses. Nobody even has a chicken in rural areas in Zamfara State. Everybody is living in fears. Everybody, they are all waiting for the opportunity to vote this government out because they have not benefited anything. They have been subjugated to slavery by banditry, and they are tired. They want to do away with this government. I'm telling you, there is nothing anybody will tell them that they will be cajoled. They have to express themselves. They are waiting for the time.
Interesting. But the current governor is a first-time governor going for second term. Unlike in other states where you have a retiring governor, so it's easier for an opposition party to at least make headway. But he is going to be incumbent. How are you going to display a party that is from disadvantage? You know, how are you going to displace an incumbent in the state?
Incumbency factor is not going to work in this case because this incumbency is going to fight against the people. The will of the people cannot be suppressed. I have told you, they are ready, they are willing, they are waiting anxiously for the hour, for the minute, for the second to assert their authority, and they will defend their rights. They will vote, they will stay there, they will until the votes are counted, until the votes are documented, until they have their own copies, until the votes are transferred, until the votes are collated and announced. They are not going to leave any chance to any mischief.
Interesting. Thank you. So, as a final question, just before we round up, you know, it's time flies so quickly. You know, what can Nigerians expect from the PDP in this election in ways that we would expect to be, or that would say that, well, this is distinctive, different from what the APC are already offering?
What I would say is this. First and foremost, I would like to start with the citizens.
Okay.
Voter apathy has not taken us anywhere. When you see competency, when you see history of record, and we have all of that in the party, an array of choices to make from, it is time for them to be more intentional, really intentional about being part of the electoral process. And how can you be part of the electoral process? Look at all the representatives from the PDP, the 17 aspiring presidential candidates. Look at them. Use certain criteria, record of experience, antecedents. How good has their antecedent been? Their experience, their international capacity to collaborate and bring in foreign investment, because our FID, foreign direct investment, has gone low, if not gone. We need that kind of person who is an international intellectual, technocrat, who can bring in that.
Just about 10 seconds left.
To address cost of living, to address agriculture and production, to address the issue of insecurity, the banditry thing we're talking about. What he did in Kwara State, for example, that is Dr. Saraki, with regards to the gun amnesty, that removed a lot of guns away from the streets, keeping the community safe. Even surveillance were things he did, even as minute as Kwara was. Imagine him taking it to the next level. So I would recommend that Nigerians go for that candidate Dr. Bukola Saraki, who has shown this kind of capacity to do this job.
Thank you very much. Lady Ejiro Umukoro, it's been nice having you. Honorable Lama Mande, it's been quite interesting talking to you, and we hope to have you one-on-one to talk more to your people and also all Nigerians who are listening today and who we hope will follow us all the time, and especially tomorrow when we meet again for another edition of Daily Politics on Trust TV. My name is Suleiman. Goodbye.